I'm Dr. Jennifer Jones Morales, and this is the 11th segment of a 12-part series on authentic leadership and mentorship in the Caribbean. Over the last few years, I've interviewed more than 100 authentic leaders in the Caribbean, namely from Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and Barbados. Out of that research, what we have found is the important role of mentors in the lives of these authentic leaders. What I'd like to showcase as well is how these mentors or authentic leaders have come on to impact the lives of up and coming mentees. Today, I have a special guest. She's a history maker, she's a trailblazer. She grew up in Trinidad, and her name is Dr. Kalisa Villafana. She will also be joined by one of her mentees, Miss Jessica St. Inbert. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Villafana. So, Dr. Kalisa Villafana is a yield engineer at Intel Corporation in Chandler, Arizona. Originally from Trinidad and Tobago, she migrated to the United States in 2008 to pursue her undergraduate degree in physics at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. She has always had a passion for learning and wanting to be impactful in STEM. That is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Eager to contribute to the scientific field, Dr. Villafana decided to pursue a PhD in experimental nuclear physics at the Florida State University. Upon graduating in August 2019, she became the first Black woman to obtain a PhD in physics from SHU. She also created history, ladies and gentlemen, because she's the 96th woman to have obtained a PhD in physics in the United States of America. Her personal philosophy is that you can achieve and excel at anything you set your mind to, if you are consistent. In her free time, she enjoys working out, self-care activities, and since moving to Arizona, hiking. Dr. Villafana's goal is to help young people to be encouraged and motivated to pursue STEM careers. Welcome, Dr. Villafana.
Thank you.
I'm
you for
so
having
excited
me.
about this interview. I want you to share with us, the role of mentors in your life. But before that, I want the audience to know a little bit about who is Dr. Kalisa Villafana. Tell us a little bit about growing up in Trinidad.
So I grew up in Trinidad in Chaguanas. I went to Chaguanas Government Primary School, and then I went to Holy Faith Convent, Cuba. I think at Holy Faith Convent is where I got excited about STEM, about science, about math. And I think that when I think about it, that's kind of where it all started for me. And that's why I decided I wanted to be a physicist. And, back then I didn't really know what a physicist did, what a scientist was. But I knew that I enjoyed the physics experiments. I knew that I enjoyed math. So I wanted to work towards that goal. So that's where this whole nuclear physicist started. So after I graduated Form 5, I decided to go do Upper 6. And then I decided to pursue my undergraduate degree in the United States. Just in terms of the opportunities there would have been for research, which is what I really wanted to do. So I moved to Tallahassee, Florida in 2008. I got my bachelor's in physics. And then I moved back to Trinidad for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So when I was back here, I did some lab technician work at Presentation College, Chaguanas. And then I wanted to do more. So I decided that I would go pursue a graduate degree. And that's where I did a lot of research. I did a lot of, attending conferences, kind of learning about physics, opportunities that are available to me, and decided to pursue my PhD. And then that took me all the way to 2019 when I graduated with a PhD in experimental nuclear physics.
And created history.
Yes, history, because it's not very common to see, women in STEM and science, technology, engineering, math. And it's also, even less common to see woman of color, minorities. So I didn't even know I would have been the first woman, the first Black woman at the university to get my PhD in physics until maybe 2 months before graduation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so one of the deans at the graduate school, she told me to look into it because all of the women who were graduating with physics PhDs across the US, they were slowly becoming the first at these universities, the first, across the US. So she told me to look into it. So I went to the archives and checked. And then I realized that there hasn't been any Black woman to graduate with a physics PhD from that school. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. It came with a lot of press and,
Yes.
which I wasn't expecting, but it was good to get Facebook messages and contact from especially young people who have never seen a scientist who looked like them and was interested in what I do, and they were trying to figure out how do they get to that point. So I think that was a very fulfilling experience.
Right. And I would want you to come back to that in a little bit.
Okay.
But you said you're a yield engineer.
Yeah.
So for the public,
So
what's a yield engineer? When we know about chemical engineers and mechanical engineers,
so
what's a yield engineer?
a yield engineer in layman's terms is a data analysis engineer. So I work for Intel Corporation. What we do is we manufacture the computer chips that you would see in your laptop and servers and those kind of things. So basically, it's a long process to get that done. There's a lot of different machines and tools that, work to print these chips. So what I do is I analyze the data that when it's done to try to figure out, okay, if it wasn't perfect, what happened in the process? So that's what a yield engineer is. Totally unrelated to what I did in school.
Okay, yeah.
But I think the thing with a PhD in science is that a lot of people maybe don't realize is what you learn to do is how to design an experiment, how to do something from start to finish, how to analyze data, how to think critically. And those are skills that you use in any field, So you shouldn't limit yourself to think, okay, because I studied nuclear physics, it means I have to be in a nuclear physics lab, right?
Yes.
So it's no, I could do medical physics. I could end up deciding that I wanted to go into biological physics. So that's why I chose to study physics, because of the opportunities that I think a lot of people are not aware of.
Okay.
So
you'll share that later on.
I can, yeah.
So let's go back now to life in Trinidad at a young age, and when you kind of recognized within your soul that you really were interested in STEM.
Yeah.
And how early did that start, and what was the trigger that you could remember?
I think honestly it started in Form 2. So I had a physics teacher, Miss Kamala Matthews, and a math teacher, deceased now, Miss Robinson, who just got me excited about math and about physics. And with physics, I think what I liked was we would do these experiments that she would relate to real life scenarios that you wouldn't really think about, right? Like an example would be, you drive in a car on a wet road versus a dry road, right? Why is it not safe to drive fast on wet? Because you would skid.
Right.
Has to do with the friction of the wheels and the road, wet versus dry. So those kind of things is what had me thinking somebody sat down and thought about this, had equations to figure these things out. And I think that's what got me interested.
And this is in Form 2.
This is in Form 2. And then I did physics all the way through. And I did, math too. I've always liked math. That's kind of what I'm good at.
Right.
And it interests me. So I think that's where it started.
So did these teachers kind of seek you out, or were you attracted to them? Did you find that they specifically kind of chose you in the classroom, or were they just guiding girls, a girls' school, to be their best selves in whatever sphere, whatever career sphere they wanted to, whether it was a scientist, whether it was an economist, whether it was a banker? Yeah.
I think at Convent, I feel like they encouraged you to pursue what you were passionate about. And I think once my teachers thought that I was interested in these things, then I would always go ask them questions. I would always be intrigued by, okay, what are we going to be doing next, right? And I think, when I write, think about recommendation letters and stuff, those were a lot of comments that I have from since convent days, was that I was always interested. So sometimes
Okay.
you don't think your teachers are aware of like your enthusiasm or what you bring to the class, but it's good to know that they're paying attention to you. So I feel like they seek you out and they try to develop you more if they feel like this is something that you're really interested in, and like you're really good at this. So I think it's a two-way thing.
I have to ask you, is there a member of your family who was into science or that kind of sparked your
Strangely,
interest?
strangely, no.
Oh, okay. So
you
you
know,
definitely were a
so
trailblazer.
yeah,
You
I
went
mean,
and told mommy and daddy,
yeah, I
look,
said
I'm
I
really
was interested in
interested.
this and I love math, but my family, nobody's into science. Like I don't know anybody who's a physicist,
Right.
like in my family or
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it was just my interest, yeah.
So let's move to the secondary school environment. So these teachers kind of took you right through, these two teachers took
Yeah.
you right through to fifth form, or they continued on to sixth form?
I ended up
with
having the physics teacher all the way through to 6th. And then my math teacher, I only had up to 5th form and had another math teacher in 6th form.
And did you have that same kind of passion? Was there a role that the teacher played that you could kind of discern in terms of sparking that interest and keeping that fire burning for the math, or no?
Yeah, because I feel like that teacher was Miss Smith, and she was also like really pleasant, really excited about teaching. And I feel like when teachers have that nurturing way about them, it makes you more excited about learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there other girls that you knew of in the classroom who were just as passionate about STEM or science
Yeah,
generally?
because with Form 4, you would choose
Yeah.
sciences versus, business or whatever. So the people that I are friends with to this day from convent, we all ended up doing sciences.
Oh, okay.
So, and we went on to do different things like engineer, one is biomedical, and, so I had friends who enjoyed the same things that I enjoyed. So we did, homework together, labs together. So that was good also. Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of the specific uh, influence of the teachers, these two teachers, what specific messaging or motivation did they give you? Did they tell you that, yes, you can do this, yes, you can go on to greater
Yeah.
things? What could you talk a little bit about how did they motivate you as role models or even mentors in your secondary school life?
Yeah, I think they wouldn't have been formal mentors. I don't think I
Right, of
really
course
knew
not.
what a
Yes.
mentor was then.
Then, yes.
But definitely, the teachers encouraging you to try different things. And, even though we were in Form 5 doing like more advanced math, and, my teachers knew that I wanted to go on to get a degree in, engineering or physics. So I feel like they were always pushing you. Like I even went to extra lessons from those
Okay.
teachers after.
Right.
So those kind of things, I think, they really encourage you to, think outside the box and try to do more advanced work than the level that you were at.
So they always wanted you to be a step ahead.
Yes.
If there was a message that you got very clearly, is
Yeah.
that you have to be ahead of the
Yeah.
curve, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in front.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you've finished fifth form, you've gone to sixth form. Were there any other like teachers who played an important role in your life or in your studies, your study life at that time, besides the other two teachers?
So one teacher, she was a Spanish teacher, and she was never my teacher. She was my composition teacher from primary school. That ended up being a teacher at convent, and she was the person who kind of got me into applying to the university that I went to. So she
Okay.
was also a mentor in a sense, but she never taught me throughout convent.
Right.
So she saw my abilities from primary school before I got to secondary school.
Wow.
And she knew of people who went to the university that I went to for my undergraduate degree. And when they were recruiting students, she told, a lot of us to go and apply. And that's how that started.
So they came down for
So they came
career
to
fair.
career fair at the
Right.
international school.
Yeah.
And I went there just, browsing. And I ended up, one of the ladies there were really good friends with Miss Matthews. And she said, like, we want these kind of international students. And she said, take the SAT, get this score. We'll give you a scholarship to come to the university. And that's what I did.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
So to get into the
To get
U.S.,
into the to get to
yes,
the university, you applied and all of that you got through.
yeah.
And then what was that like? So you went straight. What I want to get is you went straight from sixth form
Yeah.
to do your
So,
undergraduate degree.
so actually, I went to UE for 1 year.
Oh, right.
So I
Okay.
went to UE for 1 year, and I
Uh-huh.
did math and physics, and then I went to the US,
Okay.
and I got a scholarship. So I decided to go abroad to Florida and pursue my degree in physics. And Miss Bronson, who was a friend of the convent teacher, is who really, like, when my mom and I visited there, took us around, had us settle in, introduced me to other Trinidadians to make sure that I, got accustomed to the culture there, that I found a place to stay and
So
all
there
of
were
that.
other trainees
So
there
there were other
already.
trainees there
Yes.
already. Again, that networking is
Yes.
very important. So yeah, and her daughter was actually a student there at that
Okay.
time. So I met a lot of trainees in Florida. There's a
Right.
lot of trainees at my university.
More than you want to share.
More than you would think, But so that was really good because you leave Trinidad to go to a different country. That's already a new experience. So it was good to have other trainees there.
But I must ask you, how was it to make that change from UE life and being at
Yeah.
home to now going to Florida? Yes, you're meeting trainees, but it's
Yeah.
not like UE.
It's not the same. I
Yeah,
think
it's not the
too,
same. So
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. And if there were any professors who kind of took you under his or her wing.
So I feel like at UE, I felt like I wasn't as like open to kind of going around and meeting new people. I feel like I was still in a shell, like when I went to UE for that year. So I felt like I needed to kind of go out and be on my own a little bit. Because sometimes it's easy being home, living at home, to be like in your comfort zone and not be willing to see what else is out there.
So you wanted to explore.
So I wanted to explore and see like what other opportunities would be available to me, So that's why I decided to go to the US. And in the beginning, I hated it, honestly.
Okay.
I didn't like it. The food was different.
Right.
Just culturally was, very different. I had to live on the dorms, which I
Right.
didn't like. So it was an adjustment. But I think once I settled in and I met people, got into school and classes, then I enjoyed it. There was a lot of opportunities to do research, which is what I wanted to do.
So what year was that? Was that in the first year you adjusted or in the
This
second
was
year?
in the first year. Like by the end of the first semester, I adjusted. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's talk about, again, trying to pinpoint if there were any professors who kind of took you under his or her wing because they would have recognized that you had a kind of penchant for, the sciences and STEM. So did you have any experience where like some professor kind of pulled you aside and said,
Yeah.
you have you look like you have a lot of promise?
At UE, definitely the physics professor, and there was also a math professor, because I was one of the few people who were actually doing a physics degree at UE. So
At
most
UE, right.
people were in engineering and they had to take the physics classes. So they weren't as excited about it.
Okay.
So in the major, I think it was probably 3 or 4 of us who were actually pursuing physics degrees.
And how many were women?
Maybe me and another person, probably 2 of us. Because at the end of my first year at UE, I actually won the year 1 prize for physics and math.
Wow.
And I wasn't able to go collect it. My parents went on my behalf.
Right, because by that time,
yeah, because I was
shipped
going, and
off.
I felt bad because I was saying, I could have been there excelling, but I decided to go abroad.
Well, you had, from what you're saying, you wanted the adventure. You wanted to explore.
True, yeah.
So you got that opportunity,
I did,
and then you met a lot more trainees than you had anticipated you would have
definitely.
met. So talk about university life and whether you met anybody in the undergraduate at Florida, or if you met somebody even at the master's level. Talk about that, because I know you said you came back.
Yeah.
You worked at presentation where Sheldon told me that he knew you from. So talk to me about that.
So when I got to undergrad, there were a lot of professors, they're doing research, and I wanted to get into a research lab. So typically students do it in their second year, but I wanted to get the experience early on and also make some money. So I emailed all the professors and asked them, like, are you interested in a student? Like, these are my grades.
This is year what?
This is end of my first semester.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
this
year
is
one,
by
yeah.
December, yeah.
Wow.
And Dr. Richard Apathy, he's a physicist. He does like experiments with lasers. He had space in his lab, and he said, if you're interested, you could start. And I said, I'm interested. So I ended up working for him my entire time at undergrad just by sending an email, and he was looking for someone. And he became my mentor, in that relationship because he's from Ghana. So he has that experience of being an international student in the
Right.
US. He does the major that I do. He's in academia, which is at that time I wanted to pursue, being a professor. So he was from undergrad.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yes.
he became my mentor for those 3 years, and he was the reason why I was able to go to conferences, had posters to present and like do talks, all because I just emailed him and asked, like, can I work in your lab? And he said, sure.
Can I get blind? Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, sure. But and this is interesting because I want to move to cross mentoring, which is that you are female, he's male.
yeah.
So how was that adjustment? Because you would have gone to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
You would have had female mentors, teachers in your life. So if you could share with us, what was that like? Did that require any set of adjustment? And then he is from another part of the world,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
So I realized I've had both male and female mentors, and I think not all, but usually when a male mentor has a female mentee, they're nicer.
Really?
I feel like they probably think that you can't handle like too much, like, they being mean to you or like, certain tones. I feel like they are a lot more nicer to you than when they have male students. They are stricter with them. That has been my experience. So with him, like culturally, even though we're from different countries, I feel like when you're from somewhere else living in America, there's that connection.
Right.
Just by the way that you're
immigrants,
raised and your
yes,
upbringing.
yes,
Yeah. So I feel like we had that connection, and, like family's important to him, is important to me. So we would have those kind of conversations. But I think, it's mainly professional, talks, like where I see myself career-wise, what do you think I should be doing more of, or, how to improve. So I think those relationships can work too. Because all my I haven't had a mentor in the US one was actually a Trinidadian from Belmont, who was a professor at my graduate degree. So he was also a mentor. But besides him, they were all from different countries. Yeah.
Okay. But let me ask you, what was the frequency of interaction? How often would you deal with, your professor,
So in undergrad, because we worked we were in the same lab all the time, I would see him probably 3-4 times a week.
Oh, okay.
So it was very often. And then once I got to graduate school, my advisor and I, we would meet maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Yeah, just not necessarily long conversations, but just to check in, how am I progressing and that type of thing.
Well, let's talk a little bit about graduate school.
Yeah.
So you've gone on now, you've graduated, undergraduate. You decided to come back home. And then you decided, nah.
I need more. Yeah.
Not Trinidad is too small for me. So you decided, okay, let me go on to read for a master's degree. Now, when you left the US the first time after graduation, did you see yourself thinking about doing a master's then, or when you came back? Is it that when you came back and you were doing the like a teaching assistant, you decided this didn't work, maybe I need to do something else? I trying to get to, was there like a professor who would say, well, maybe you should think about doing further work? I know in these universities they do that. Because it happened to me. They encourage you to do further work. Yeah.
So I always wanted to get my PhD, but I thought I wanted a break first.
Okay.
So after undergrad, I knew that to get the PhD would take me about 6 years.
Right.
So I felt like maybe I should get some type of, work experience. And, in hindsight, I probably should have stayed in the US and worked for a bit and then gotten my degree.
Instead of coming back home.
Yeah, but then my family's here too.
Right, of
And,
course.
after living away for, it's like 3.5 years by myself, I decided I was going to come back home. But then I was just,
Trinidad is too small.
yeah, I was like, I needed more, opportunities, like something that was more exciting,
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to go back and enroll into the PhD program.
But you had other advisors and mentors. So I want you to talk a little bit about that in terms of who were your mentors during your postgrad and then the PhD. And then, that going on from the master's to PhD is a big jump. If anybody encouraged you, who was kind of spurring you on in the back and all that.
So the way a lot of U.S. universities are set up, you go from the bachelor's to a PhD program. So I got a master's along the way.
All right.
But I wasn't that I had to like enroll in a master's and then enroll in a PhD. So after my bachelor's, I enrolled in a PhD program, and I think in 2 years I got the master's.
Right.
So most people, if the end goal is a PhD, they don't even realize they got a master's. They just like keep going towards it.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's kind of what happened. And through undergrad, going to conferences is where I met my other mentors.
Okay.
So every time I go to conferences, I would make sure that I would, get in touch with somebody who was at a booth, a professor, somebody who did a talk that I liked, somebody that I saw myself doing that kind of research. And one of my mentors that I met there was a medical physicist, so Dr. McKinsey. And she became my mentor up to this day because my intention was after I got my PhD, I was going to do medical physics.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was the person who encouraged me and like told me what I needed to do, the different courses, all these different things, resume writing and all of that. So I met that mentor there. I also have like mentors through graduate school, like one of the dean of the graduate school, Dr. Stevenson. She's really good at like applications, resumes, CV. So she became a mentor to me because I wanted someone who would help me with that type of thing. And then my advisor, my PhD advisor, he was another mentor. I also met another international guy who does accelerator work, and we kept in touch. So I just made connections with people that I would meet at different places, and even if it was like a monthly check-in, just to say hi, that I was like interested in like this company later on. So I made that connection. So that's kind of how that mentor relationship is to me. Like I have a lot of them,
Right.
for different things,
For different
right?
things,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And they feed you in
They
different
do.
spheres
Yeah,
of your life.
yeah.
So talk a little bit about the Trinidadian who you would have met. Yes,
So-
the Trini mentor,
Yeah, mentor.
versus the other mentors, and if there were differences. Because, one of the things that we want to explore in these discussions is whether or not there are differences in cross-race mentorship. And you'd imagine that, when a foreign university like the US,
Yeah.
there's a strong possibility that you
yeah.
may have a mentor or an advisor who is of a different race or
Yeah.
ethnicity. And, what I want to explore is, were there differences that you could, clearly see, well, somebody who looks like you as of color deals with you in a particular way versus, somebody else who's not of the same.
There's definitely differences because
Yeah.
the Trini mentor, he was one of my professors in grad school, and he was tough on me. And
But you just said men are kind of
yes, but he was an exception
but the
because he was a Trini.
Let's-
And I would, like, then the way that I would talk to him, I would be like, dude, like, you're stressing me out. Versus other professors, I wouldn't address them like that.
Right.
But then when his mom had turned like 90, he invited me to his house, right?
Okay.
When I was leaving, he gave me like a wooden diploma case, and he gave me like, he does woodwork and stuff.
Okay.
So if he makes pepper sauce or whatever, he would give it to me. So other, non-Trini mentees, we don't
Right.
have that dynamic.
Right.
So I feel like the Trini mentee, if I go to his office, he's blasting soca from 1960 something. And, he would say, you don't know nothing about this, right? But the US mentors, we don't have that kind of relationship.
Right.
So it's definitely different. I think with a fellow Trini, the way we talk to each other, just the whole vibe is different.
Right.
With my female, I have the medical physicist mentor is a
Yes.
Black woman, American, but she's experienced similar things from me. Like, in my program while I was at Florida State, I was only Black female. Right. So I'm used to going to conferences where I'm the only Black female in the space. So that kind of perspective, she has that experience. So there was like that type of common ground. My advisor, who's my PhD advisor, he's British, and we have a different relationship, right? So it really is different, like culturally, and the things you talk about might be different, like, that type of interaction that you have with them. Like the way you text your mentor may be different.
Right.
Your
Trini mentor.
Right. The way
it's different.
Yeah. So it's different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself having any major challenge kind of switching in terms of the person with whom you were dealing? Having to switch gears, like, can't write in a Trini. Can't write him a Trini way, to my British advisor. Or,
I think
or
typically,
to Dr.
yes.
Mackenzie, Professor Mackenzie also,
Yeah, typically I would message like professionally. I wouldn't use slang words generally if I'm, texting or emailing someone. Just so that
you would talk about the content of the content of your discussions in terms of you pursuing your professional goals. Were they different?
So
in terms of the discussion you would have with the respective mentor.
So I think with my particular advisor, like he always knew what my intentions were in terms of after graduating. He did my recommendation letters and stuff, and also the medical physicist Rachel, she also did recommendations. So they were helping me in different ways. So I feel like the conversations were a little bit different. But with her, it was a more, I think, informal relationship also. The way we would communicate, like checking on each other, was different from my formal advisor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So thanks for sharing that, Dr. Villafana. Want to move on to, the PhD and what that experience was like for you, and whether new mentors emerged during that phase of your life. I mean, so now you're going up the totem pole, and I guess there are fewer and fewer women going after this thing. And we're not even talking now about race as a factor, but just the fact that you're a woman makes it, something special in itself that you're pursuing this degree at this level. So could you talk about, the encouragement that you would have received to pursue to continue on the PhD from the masters, and what did you meet any new mentors during that segment, masters to the completion of the
So
PhD
once I was
degree?
doing my master's towards PhD, I would similarly I would go to a lot of conferences. So that was one of the, I wouldn't say requirements, but it's good, like to present your research out to different forums and stuff. So every time I go to those forums is where I would meet other mentees. And then there's this group called the National Society of Black Physicists.
Okay.
So every year they have conferences, and a lot of my mentees emerge from those meetings.
Okay.
So, and it has never been formal. So there are people who have gotten their PhD from different universities, and they're in different industries. So one of them actually does like nuclear stuff for the government. So that's another mentor that I have. So we check in with each other, occasionally. And then once I saw myself going to the industry after graduating, I made those connections with people who did that same thing. Like they had their PhD in physics or engineering. They are not doing exactly what they studied, but they're doing something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's 2019, I believe you graduated?
Yeah, 2019.
2019, lot of buzz.
Yeah.
First woman in the university, first
Yeah.
woman of color in the university,
Yeah.
Florida State, and also the 96th woman in the US. How did you find out that you were number 96 to
So
accomplish this tremendous feat?
So one of the physicists who I don't know what number she is, but Dr. Jamie Valentine, she went to my undergrad and then she went on to a different university to get her PhD in physics. She started the African American Woman in Physics archives and webpage, where she went all the way back to the first person. So ever since then, we meet each other at these conferences and they check in. Your LinkedIn, your email, whatever, what stage in your career you are at. So she has a record of like if you're an undergrad, graduate school, when you graduate. So that's how they're tracking it.
Okay.
So so she did a lot of work in finding those people out from way back and recording everyone. And it's strange because a lot of the people in the recent years, I've met them at different, conferences. So it's like I know, from probably number 80 something
Right,
all
all
the
the way
way
to
to
90.
they're probably at like 100 and something now.
No, yeah, since
Yeah.
you would have graduated. So you said earlier at the top of the interview that there was a lot of buzz. There were interviews and
Yeah.
stuff. And we know in the American context they do these things well. Everybody with a microphone
Yeah.
up in your face now because you've become, important and you've created history. So my question now is really about, have you been on platforms particularly to encourage young girls to become, interested in STEM, and what has that been, if at all? And then we'll get on to, your mentorship aspect. So have you been in different fora to talk
So
to
since
young
then,
people?
it's been a lot of requests.
Yes.
So my advisor kind of started this because there was this thing in graduate school. He became the dean of the graduate school, my advisor. And he wanted to showcase just graduate students in general. And they had like undergrads who were in film and videography would record us like doing our research. So that was the grad student series. It's all over YouTube. So when that started, it just so happened that he made me do it. And that started this whole train of people asking, would you interview, like talk about this and, this accomplishment. So once I graduated, I had a lot of people in Tallahassee, Florida, like STEM programs for girls who wanted me to call into like the readings and to be on the panels. And then I have a friend who's a professor at University of Miami. So she wanted me to do a panel with undergrad students. So I did one of those. And then in my job, kind of helping students who are now coming into Intel as interns or new to the technology. So that's been like, I've always said that I want to help, especially
Giving
like
back.
Trinidad, right?
Yes.
Because you talk all about like you got this and who helped you along the way, but then what do you do about it after, right? So for a while, I've been working on my own business platform, Science Scholars, which would be a mentoring platform. It's meant to be tutoring, mentoring, and consulting, but I feel like the mentoring part needs to like get kickstarted because a lot of people, would message me like they have daughters who are interested in this, like, So I want to like set up something where people could formally, put your information, what you're interested in, and how you think I could help you or what resources
And
you
this
would
is already
need.
established.
So yeah,
You
so
have a
I'm
mentorship
hoping
platform.
right to
Great.
launch in April. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Ahead
so
of it,
I
ahead of
know
it.
I'm trying to work on that because I
Oh,
want
that's
to really
incredible.
help people, especially like young girls who don't see people who look like them doing the things that they're interested in.
Well, one of the things, and thanks for sharing that, one of the things that came out in the research I did, the doctoral research, one of the things that came out besides the mentorship was this whole concept of eudaimonia and the authentic leaders wanting to give back. So it's no surprise to me really that you want to give back because that's really one of the tenets of being an authentic leader, and that was new in the study, which it was not a part of before. But let's talk about now moving into the workspace. Because you've moved now, you've shifted from one state to another. So let's talk a little bit about that, and who have you met up in Arizona that is providing mentorship to you, and who are you mentoring?
So one thing that I do like about my job is that they always have these mentoring circles, because a lot of people, you come in with a PhD or a master's and all you know is school, right? Like
Right.
you've done school all your life, and going into like the workforce, dealing with different personalities, different things, it's a different adjustment, dealing with a team. So they have these mentoring circles where, based on where you see yourself in the next 2 to 5 years, you can pick a mentor. So through that, I've had probably 3 or 4 mentors formally who helped me with, presentation skills and like leadership skills and like how to get, how to be influential in
So
the
this is through
company.
Intel.
This is all through Intel. And like what I try to do is, if I see someone doing something that I like, I just reach out to them. I
Right.
feel like the worst a person could say is they're busy. And most people are willing to help you.
Okay.
So, if I see someone in a meeting who presents really well, explains really well, then I say, ping them, like, this was a really good presentation. Do you have 15 minutes to chat on Friday?
Wow.
And almost always they say yes. And then we become mentor, mentee.
Mentees,
And then
right.
we check in maybe once a month. Sometimes I invite her to my talks when I have to present in a meeting so she can give me feedback. So to me, that's how you develop,
Right.
those relationships, right? Like you just gotta seek it out and then see where it goes. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, in the second half, we're going to bring in
So,
Jessica, but I
okay.
want to talk a little bit about, how do you meet most of your mentees
Yeah.
and, how you came upon Jessica. And then we
So,
bring in Jessica in the
so
second half.
Jessica became a mentee through a program that I was in at Florida State in grad school it's called a long name, but it's Florida Georgia Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. It's a mouthful, but basically it's a program that's meant to encourage minority students to go to
Okay.
graduate schools. So they're in undergrad, they're pursuing some STEM degree, and you want to encourage them to go further to graduate school. So once I got into that program, I realized that, I enjoy this mentoring thing, like helping people to
Right.
get, what they see themselves
And
getting
you
to the next level.
benefited
Right.
tremendously.
So I want to
Yes.
help people. So Jessica was one of my mentees, she was my mentee for a long time, and she was contemplating, I think, working after, she'll tell you about it, but working after school. And I was like, you should go to grad school, and she's doing her PhD now in
Yes.
epidemiology. So it feels good to, like, even if she was my mentee for a short time, to see somebody like kind of like follow their dreams and
Right.
like, go through with it because of your relationship with them.
So you made her kind of move towards
So I was like,
going
you
to
should
PhD.
definitely,
Yes, so you've
do the,
influenced.
yeah. I hope I did.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Villafana,
you.
for sharing your
Yeah,
story
thank
with
you.
us.
This is
And in the
great.
second half, we'd bring in Jessica and we'd hear her side of your
Okay.
story. Thank you. So,
Okay,
ladies and
thank
gentlemen,
you.
we'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to Mentoring Monday. So, with me today, as you know, is Dr. Kalisa Villafana. And now she's being joined by her mentee, Miss Jessica St. Imbert, who will tell us a little bit more about herself in a little while after I share with you a few words. Yeah? So, Jessica is a third year doctoral student majoring in public health with a concentration in epidemiology and biostatistics. She has interest in infectious and chronic diseases affecting the population health. During her spare time, she enjoys working out, reading crime fiction books, listening to podcasts. Hope you'd listen to ours, and watching YouTube videos about space and Netflix. So, welcome, Jessica. Jessica is joining us virtually, and she'll tell us a little bit more about herself. Thank you, Jessica. Over to you.
Thank you for inviting me to this. As you said, yes, my name is Jessica. I am a third year public health doctoral student at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. My concentration is in epidemiology and biostatistics. I am, like you said, I am interested in infectious and chronic disease affecting the population health because I see that it's as the world is changing, so is different forms of diseases. So there where my interests lie. Um, I met Dr. Kalisha when I was a junior at Florida State University, where my major was psychology, but at that moment I was pre med. And at that moment, when I was in that same program from since my community college, where I met Dr. Kalisha in that same program, and from there, from 2013 up until spring 2016, she was my mentor, and I am so grateful for that. And
Great.
then after her convincing me and then pretty much inspiring me to continue with my graduate degree, I went down to Miami where I got my master's in public health and my concentration was in epidemiology from Florida International University.
Great, great. And you said you're interested in infectious diseases, and so I guess the times in which we now find ourselves, you are very much interested in what is going on. So
Yes,
congratulations, and I wish
ma'am.
you all the best in your studies. So let's
Thank
talk,
you.
Jessica. What was your first interaction, as far as you could recall? What was your first interaction with Dr. Villafana?
I can't vividly remember my first interaction, but I can sense that she was a good person because when I met her, I was like, "Ooh, she's a cool person." So then, and from interacting with her through the program, I noticed that she was very sincere, which is something that doesn't come easily, especially if she's in a graduate program and then I'm starting undergrad. So as I was interacting with her, I really saw that her heart was in it. And then knowing that she was getting a PhD, and I was like, oh, inspiration enough. Say less. So every time we had a meeting, I felt even more inspired to continue with my education because watching her interacting with other students or watching her talk about work, you can always see that education was very important to her, which is something my parents instilled in me from since I was little. So when seeing her being taking her education very seriously, it inspired me to take my education even more seriously and to continue up until I was satisfied with all of my degrees.
Okay, great. So tell me something. Did you approach her? Did you say, look, could you be my mentor? Or was it a relationship that grew out of, your interaction with her?
I can't quite remember how we got paired up. I just say a match made in heaven
Ah,
because
nice.
I can't
Very nice. You
because I
can't
can't
ask
really
for
remember
more,
how we
Dr.
met up.
Villafana. I mean, a match made in heaven.
Yeah, because I can't really vividly remember like how we met up, but all I know I got an email say, "Yo, this is your mentor," and I'm like, "Cool, I'm okay."
Great. How was it for you to adjust to Dr. Villafana as a Trinidadian woman? Was there any kind of challenge that you saw or even foresaw in the relationship?
No, because I'm Haitian, so having another person from the Caribbean also at a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution, it made my stress go down a little bit more because I coming from a community college going to a university, it's like a culture shock.
Yes.
Like I'm not used to
Yes.
it. And then being paired with her, it made it easier for me to navigate through my courses, no matter how hard it became. Knowing that she was always there, it made things easier and better for me.
Okay, great. What do you recall were some of her main messages, like her two main messages to you at the time? I mean, yes, she was an inspiration, but in terms of your interaction, what were like her two biggest messages to you?
Do not give up. No matter how hard it is, do not give up because nothing in life that you really want will come easy. So in times that you feel like giving up, step back a little bit and then go back into it. But essentially, do not give up. And then
All
the
right.
second thing was, yeah, and the second thing was like, I'm not, how do I say this? Because we were like, pretty much black women at a white institution, it was just pretty much seeing her, it was just like be an inspiration not only for yourself but only for the others you may never know who is looking up to you. Yeah.
Great, great stuff. Match made in heaven. Give me. So, so Jessica, tell me something. Could you give us an example of an experience you had where those words had to resonate with you of never giving up? And how did she kind of take you through that process? So let's have a practical experience.
Okay. Oh, I can remember one vividly actually. I was gearing up to study for my GRE, and I'm not a big fan of standardized tests because I don't think they're a true measurement of intelligence. So even though she was busy with her doctoral work, she could have easily said, "No, I don't have time to tutor you in the math and how to address and how to take on the problem in different formats." So even though she was busy with her doctoral studies, she still had me come to her lab and do the tutoring for the GRE
Wow.
just to make sure I was prepared by the time I took it. So having her taking time out of her schedule to make time for me was bigger than I can imagine. And because of that, it just gave me more and more of a drive to continue studying, even when I had little anxiety moments. Because I remember texting her, I was like, I don't think I can do this. And she's like, nope, you're going to do this. You are going
Oh,
to do this. You are
wow.
not going to give up. Yeah, so it was just like that little motivation. And then going into her lab and watching her work, it was like, wow, I'm in awe.
So tell me something, Jessica. Did you have any mentors before Dr. Villafana?
I did at the community college that I attended. Excuse me. I did. I by the name of Dr. Eddie Stringer. He first was my college algebra math professor, and then when I entered the STEM program, that's when he became my full blown mentor, who I still keep into contact with from time to time today. So he was my mentor, and he pretty much pushed me to keep on going. And then just like Dr. Kalisha have with her having teachers and professors seeing the spark in her, he also saw the spark in me, and he was like,
What differences or challenges did you see with having a male mentor versus a female mentor, if any at all?
I don't. I think from both mentors, I got tough love. I grew up on tough love, so I grew up on tough love myself. So from both of them, I got tough love, even though there was a bit of, oh, we're being nice right now, but there was still tough love. You need to get on. You need to get on it. So the differences was he was a bit more of a jokester, but he was very serious about the education. And then Dr. Kalisha was like, oh, let's continue doing this. Let's continue doing this. And she was like, of course, she was much nicer than he was, but from both of them, I got different versions of tough love.
Okay, and you didn't mind. You felt that that kind
No,
of
I did not.
spurred you on to being the best you could be. Yeah?
Yeah, and then plus, my parents grew pretty much parents raised me on tough love, so it's just another aspect of it. So when they gave me the tough love, I wasn't scared. It was just letting me know, like, Jessica, you need to get your stuff together because these people are like, utilizing their time on you. You need to produce something of the time that they're using on you.
Tell me something. What was the frequency of the interaction with Dr. Villafana?
We met on a monthly basis on the weekends because that's when the organization was able to meet. And so even we were on different sides of campus, I never really ran into Dr. Kalisha like that. So at
Okay.
these meetings, yes, at these meetings, that's when we did a general meeting, and then we broke off individually to meet with our mentors, and that's when she went more in depth of where I'm at and then where I'm heading.
Okay, but preparing for the GRE would have been extra in all of this.
Yes,
So,
yes.
as required, Dr. Kalisha stepped up to the plate.
Oh, I was ready to. I was like, okay. I looked at the math and I was like, yeah, this is not my cup of tea. Let me go to somebody who is best friends with mathematics, and that's her.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
So she helped me out a big way.
all right, I'm going to switch to Dr. Kalisha. Can you call her Dr. Kalisha? So, Dr. Kalisha, talk about your interaction with Jessica the first time and, whether you saw a spark and what that translated to in terms of the growth of your relationship.
So I think, like she said, we got paired up through the
Yes.
program. They kind of try to find you just someone who they think you would match with. And I had other mentees too, but for some reason, we just had a vibe and we had a good dynamic. And I think she was always really interested in like learning and, she wanted the help. And like, I think that is what gives mentors drive when you feel like your mentee is really taking your time and really applying what you tell them, how you help them. So with the GRE, even like, I was busy, but I feel like if I want to see you succeed and I'm saying I'm there to
Yes.
help you, then what am I going to do about it, right? So I feel like, I just like that like you can see, she's very
Oh,
enthusiastic, she's
yeah.
very
It's
intelligent.
coming through the screen,
And
Jessica.
yeah, she has always
Thank
been a
you.
really great mentee. And, I've had a lot of mentees throughout the years I was in the program.
So, how many others would you have had with her?
So while she was my mentee, I think I had maybe 3 or 4 other
Oh, okay,
people.
okay.
But I think she's the only mentee that I checked up on like after. Like you went to, I know she was gonna go to, get her master's. And then we have each other on Instagram. So I might like pictures or like message and
Okay.
stuff, keep in
Yes.
touch. Cause, I just felt like she was is gonna be very successful and is very successful.
So, the point about it in overall, how many years have you been mentor protege?
I think the program lasted, I would say, maybe 3 years throughout her undergrad
Yes,
career.
Right.
So
And
I
then
would
you're
say
still a
3, 4 years.
mentor. So
Yeah,
you're outside of the time period
yeah.
for mentor mentees in the
Mentees.
US.
Yeah,
Yeah, because the research says it's
yeah.
like 4 years,
And
kind
I
of
mean,
thing.
our fields are different, right? Like, I
Yes.
don't know what she does epidemiology, and one of
Right.
my best friends does it too. So I know what it is about and, like, the track that they take, but I don't know her work really, and she doesn't know mine. But you can still be a mentor to someone and, be in different fields, right? So you never know, like, the connection and, like, how long it's going to last, where it's going to take you.
But you referred to earlier about someone who was in medical
Physics, yeah.
physics, right? So is there any overlap at all into what, Jessica might be sharing and
Yeah,
your own
definitely.
interests?
And I
Yes.
think so for me with the medical physics, right?
Yeah.
Like they do like your cancer research, the machine and the radiation stuff. So of course there's a health side to that too.
Right.
So I'm sure there's overlap in the two of them, But and then with my mentees, even if I don't have the answers, I probably know someone who's in that field who I could
Okay.
connect you with, right? So that's the thing with the networking, right? Like my friend who just got her PhD in epidemiology would be a good mentor for Jessica.
Right.
So it'll be a good connection,
So you'd have
So you can
two
have two.
relationships made in heaven.
Right? So yeah.
Okay, so what in terms of Jessica, and I'm asking you this question. In terms of non area of study, non discipline discussions, do you have a lot of those with Dr. Kalisha? Where you talk about, dealing with other problems besides your schoolwork or your advancement in the PhD program?
Because like she said, we have such different backgrounds.
Yeah.
I couldn't technically go to her because because of her field of work and my field of work. So I, even though we completely different fields, I still like see what she does. Like with everything was happening around her graduating, I was like, that's my mentor. So so
Yeah, but
even
I'm
though we
talking
had
about the
different stuff.
non, yes, the non area of study. So if you have
Oh,
a, a issue at home or, you know, with something in a specific workspace, if necessary, to say that, or do you all
no,
talk
not necessarily.
strictly like graduation and
Not
academics and
necessarily.
those kinds of things? Yeah.
Not necessarily, but I feel like if I had any issue, I could go to her about anything, and she would give me the best
Right.
advice, moving forward based on my situation.
Okay, so do you all have time to talk about, let's say, what you saw in one of your crime stories that you like, or something like that? Do you have that? What I'm trying to establish is two things. The personal aspect, which you have met your parents, those kinds of non-work areas.
I can't quite remember, but if that opportunity had come up where I had to, I knew that I could go to her for anything.
For anything, yeah. Okay, great, great. So, so I'm trying to establish, like, if it's only academic.
I think at
Yeah,
that time when we had the monthly or weekly meetup, I was in grad school
right.
and she was in undergrad. So I think it was more so professional, academic, like getting into grad school. And of course, the occasional, like your weekend, and don't forget to relax and go work out. So I think
Right.
we had those kind of conversations. But once I graduated, I think the relationship was more like a check in. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Yeah.
Because I used to talk to my mentor about,
But
Shakespeare and
yeah, yeah,
music
yeah.
and, everything that, besides
Yeah.
work, besides the
Yeah, yeah.
progress in the program,
Yeah.
that's what you do sometimes if you
Yeah, yeah.
can. So I just wanted to
Establish.
establish,
Okay.
the kind of relationship and, meeting parents and meeting family, outside
Yeah.
of the workspace. So let's move into the other segment, which deals with tips and takeaways. So this segment is to deal with tips and takeaways for, to encourage persons to become mentors in the case of Dr. Kalisha, which I quite like Dr. Kalisha. And for you, Jessica, to talk about tips and takeaways for young people who may be looking for a mentor. Yeah? So, as a protege, what would you tell them? What has been your experience? What to look out for? How do you know if it's a match made in heaven or not? Because we are focusing this program on high quality mentorship relationships or extraordinary
Yeah.
mentorship relationships, which just fits, right? So, Jessica, let me let you start.
So you're asking for what advice like I would give out
Tips.
as a men as
Yes,
a
yes. To some
I would
young one who doesn't have a mentor.
I would say to the person who's trying to find mentor, be open minded. Even though you may not have the same background as the person that you want as a potential mentor, just like me and Kalisha, she was in nuclear physics, I was in psychology. Nothing similar about
Yeah.
that. So be open minded and be a sponge because you never know what could come
I
from
like
that
that.
mentor mentee relationship.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thanks for sharing that. I like that. Be a
Sponge.
sponge. Be open minded.
Yes.
Suck everything.
Yes.
So, Dr. Kalish, Dr. Kalisha.
So in terms of being a mentor, I think like, if you see someone who's trying to get to a point where maybe you have already gotten to that, even if it's in a different field, like Jessica said, but they're trying to get a PhD, they're trying to get an advanced degree or bachelor's degree, and you can help them with that. You can help them with resume writing or scholarship applications. I think you just have to think back on all the people that helped you to get to the point where
Yes.
you made, because we thank everybody, you thank parents, teachers, and then you like sometimes for me, I think back like, okay, well, am I doing enough, right? Like, am I molding young people to be future scientists and future leaders? And I think from the mentee perspective, because I'm also a mentee, I think being a mentee is a lifelong thing.
Right.
And I feel like you see people doing things that you want to emulate in totally different fields, right? They could be in business, like you're doing your show. I'm trying to get involved into those type of things.
Right.
So who knows the type of relationship that could evolve, right?
Right.
And we're from completely different
Sure,
backgrounds,
sure.
right?
And
So
I
I
like the
feel
idea of your platform.
Right. So I feel
Yeah.
like people need to be like Jessica said, open to the opportunities, and I feel like just keep giving back. Like if you can help somebody, get to that level, then you should definitely help them. So that's my advice. Just soak it up, ask for help. Like don't be afraid to say you don't know something. If
Right.
you don't know, you never know who knows and who has connections. Right?
Right.
Connections are important.
Right. Right.
Networking is how you get to the
Yeah,
next level.
yeah, you
Like
made that very clear today.
network. Like you got a network. So I think, that would be my advice to young people. Like seek out people who are doing things that you think are, great things that you want to do, similar things, and just shadow them or, reach out to them, and more than likely they'll help you.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I wouldn't allow you to leave without asking two questions.
Okay.
What's in store next for you, and what plans do you have in the future for helping young Trinidadian, Tobagonian
Yeah.
girls, really, live their dream in STEM?
So
Are there
that's the
specific plans that you
Yeah, so the
have?
mentoring platform is going to be called Science Scholars and is meant to like tutor mainly physics and math because that's my background. But the mentoring side is like maybe students in Trinidad want to get to the US. They don't know how to go about like what's required, like SAT and like, getting the visa when you get to the US, where you stay, those kind of things. So I want to be able to help them navigate that
So would you
process.
have a specific part of your platform dedicated to Caribbean?
Yes, it'll be
Yeah, Caribbean,
dedicated to
yeah.
like
Caribbean
Caribbean, in
students,
particular
yes,
Trinidadian
yes,
students
yes.
who are looking into
Great.
migrating, like scholarship applications. How do you write it?
Wonderful.
Like, and then I hope like when they're done, like how do you write a resume versus a CV? How do you get
Right.
this kind of job? And I don't know everything, but I'm gonna have the platform where I could source out different people who can like help and give advice and give feedback. So that is the goal for 2022.
Great. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So
Yeah.
that's next
So
on
that's
your
next for
radar,
me. And then I also have my regular job,
right?
8 to 5, more like 8 to 10. But,
All of us.
but I enjoy my job. I love what I do. It's interesting stuff. And especially in times of COVID, it's good to work for a company where, the service, the platforms that we're using, it's
Right.
dependent on, companies like this. So that's
So
a
do you
good
feel
thing.
more pressure to produce, given the COVID and given the environment and given
Yeah.
the rate, the pace, the accelerating rate of trying to bring out new products to help?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. The industry
Okay.
that I'm in is very high stress. It's a lot of work, and I think that's why I haven't had as much time to dedicate to the mentoring.
Platform.
But even with my company, they have platforms for that too, where they donate and they have different types of scholarships. So something that I want to work on, where maybe I can get help from the company also.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be
So
cool. That'd be
that
cool.
would be a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So young and upcoming
Yeah.
girls in Trinidad and
Yep.
Tobago, the rest of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
look out
Look out.
for this platform.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me say it really has been a pleasure
Thank
having
you.
this interview, Dr. Kalisha. Sorry.
No, that's
I
good.
kind
I
of
like
picked it up
it.
from Jessica. So Dr. Kalisha Villafana, it has really been a wonderful interview, lots of insights. And I like the fact that, this spark was in you from
Yeah.
pre-teen,
Yeah.
a little girl. I wouldn't go as far as to say toddler, but certainly very young, and that you've pursued your dreams, you've become successful, you have created history, and you continue to blaze the trail. So, Jessica, to you, I'm glad that you've found your match. It's a
Yes.
rarity, and to say it the way you have, and I want to wish you the best. And I want to hear greater things about you in the next 2, 3 years. Maybe I would come back to interview you and your mentee
No,
then. Okay?
no
A
problem. No
pleasure.
problem. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in on Mentoring Monday. And next week we will have another exciting guest. Take care. See you in a week's time.